Welcome to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Comment is the big conversation, the great debate, but it can only be either if you join in. That's why, above all, I need your telephone calls. The number is 44208-601-4555. You call us, we'll call you back, establish a clear line, and remember, if you get on the television with me, the volume on your television has to be at 0. You can also SMS me on 447800008066, or you can email me at comment@presstv.co.uk. You can even tweet me at comment_presstv. I'm raring to go. I hope you are, because my blood is racing. It's red hot. Because I've been watching, because I watch alternative news channels rather than the so-called lamestream media, I've been watching mass murder. Mass murder most foul. A barbarous, unchecked, and even largely uncriticised. No calls for restraint. Where is the Middle East peace envoy? Is he calling for a ceasefire, or is his silence, like the silence of most of the political class, Ed Miliband, for example, has he gone on holiday? I haven't heard a single word from him. That silence from the political class is, of course, complicity with the mass murder that the rest of us with access to information have been watching for the last 2 weeks. More than 90 Palestinians have been massacred, 90, and more than 20 of those have been small children. Every one of them a militant, every one of them a terrorist. There's no silence, though, in the media. The media is very clear. Israel is under attack. No one's been killed on the Israeli side. No one's even been injured. No one's actually been scratched on the Israeli side. But hey, their dinner has been regularly disturbed by sirens, and the streets are empty, because some of them have gone to bomb shelters. Would that the Palestinian people in Gaza had bomb shelters, or anywhere to hide, anywhere to run, because of course they don't. The nearly 2 million Palestinians inside the Gaza Strip are locked up for the duration. Every door, every gate locked against them. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, in a very, very small piece of territory containing the most densely populated population anywhere on the earth. The Israeli apologists sometimes say, why are the terrorists hiding amongst the people? Well, of course, there is no place for anybody to go in Gaza. Everyone is piled on top of each other. The Israeli apologists claim that Israel is targeting weapons. But of course, when a warship off the coast barks its shells at the territory that they patrol, they're not targeting anyone. They're just firing hot, molten steel. And that hot, razor-sharp, molten steel and the sheets of breaking glass are tearing the Palestinian people to pieces, decimating them. More than 80 have been killed, but about 500 have been wounded. Mortuaries are closing. Hospitals are unable to cope. Ambulance drivers are being deliberately targeted. It's the old story. Someone sent me today a speech I gave in 2009, which mirrors almost word for word what I've just said to you now. Nobody did anything about it then. Nobody's doing anything about it now. In fact, it's worse than that. The only two forces ready to stand up, who've already stood up to the mass murderers of what they call Israel, are two people that some people want Muslims to hate. Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, in a masterful speech this week, the leader of Hezbollah, which delivered, of course, in 2006, Israel's only ever defeat on the battlefield by any army, was standing shoulder to shoulder, four square, with the Palestinian people. Indeed, the Hezbollah has already been of great military assistance to the resistance inside Gaza. And the other, of course, is Iran. Now, there is a class of sectarian idiot in the Muslim world who wants us to hate Iran, wants us to hate Syed Hassan Nasrallah, wants us to hate Hezbollah. That has morphed into a situation because everybody knows that the only weapons that the Palestinian resistance has inside Gaza came from those that we are being asked to hate. So that morphs into hating the Palestinians themselves, ignoring them, except where you're actually blaming them. That's happening right now in Egypt, for example, where the mass media of the military junta of General Sisi is actually blaming the Palestinians for the murderous assault that has been unleashed against them. The killing of young people has captured imagination around the whole world by the public, by the police. The settlers who just last week captured, tortured, poured gasoline down the throat of a Palestinian teenager in Jerusalem before setting him on fire are sitting on deck chairs watching the bombardment of Gaza. They are actually watching as a kind of spectator sport what's being done in the settler state of Israel. Not only did that young man just get burned alive, these bullies there beat his cousin, an American citizen, to a pulp. I don't know about you. I've come to expect mass murder from a state which was founded on mass murder. Mass murder of anybody, of the British, mass murder of United Nations officials, mass murder of villages like Deir Yassin, mass murder of the Palestinians, mass murder of the refugees in Sabra and Shatila, mass murder in Jenin. I expect that from them. They are mass murderers. What I'm more interested in is three things. First of all, where are the Arab leaders? Where are the Muslim leaders? Where is the Ummah that they teach us about in school, as a young Palestinian girl said to me after Cast Lead in 2009, 2010? Where is the Ummah that they teach us about in school? Why did they leave us to face this alone? Why did they leave us to face this alone? Secondly, I'm interested in where are the British and other political leaders. David Cameron says that he staunchly supports Israel in this action. Ed Miliband has gone missing. Where are all these champions of human rights? Human rights in Syria, for example. Human rights in Iraq before the invasion. Where are they? And the third question I'm interested in is what to do about the despicable, repulsive, culpable mass media that misserves the public of Western countries, one of which, the so-called British Broadcasting Corporation, we're forced to pay for on pain of imprisonment if we don't. And the second question that we are dealing with this evening is a question we've had to deal with these last few weeks. We're asking, what has been your country's reaction to ISIL's atrocities? Another 35 executed men uncovered by Iraqi security forces just this week. ISIL are Al-Qaeda, or at least they were Al-Qaeda, until Al-Qaeda kicked them out as being just too brutal, just too cruel, just too fanatical, just too sectarian. And if you're too sectarian for Al-Qaeda, what does that make you? And yet, not a single thing has been done by any Western government to check the advance of ISIL in Iraq. It is now an inescapable, ineluctable conclusion that the Western governments are in league with ISIL. If they were not, they'd already be bombing them, wouldn't they? Hassan in Glasgow is on the line. He's the first caller. Hassan, welcome, please. Go ahead.
Hi, George.
Hi there.
I'm calling from Glasgow just now.
Yeah.
I actually go to uni here as well. I've got two questions.
Yeah.
And one of them is, what is the Muslim world doing about this?
Nothing.
Like, you've got Iran saying that, oh, we'll stand side by side, but where is it all? It's all talk. You know, you've got Turkey across the sea there. They don't help. No. You've got Egypt. They've closed their borders off, not letting anybody escape. So, how can anybody else help if their own brothers and sisters don't even help them?
Well, that's, as I say, the biggest question that arises out of these events. General Sisi, we were told, is the new Nasser. But Nasser, of course, fought and fought and fought to defend the Palestinian people and absolutely rejected the presence of the settler state called Israel in the region. Nasser fought these dictatorships in the Persian Gulf. General Sisi is financed and supported to the nth degree by these dictatorships in the Persian Gulf. The only two Muslim forces ready to defend the Palestinian people, indeed already involved in the defense of the Palestinian people, are Iran and Hezbollah. And Muslims like you in Glasgow and everywhere else in the world are being told, actually, you should hate them. They're somehow the enemy. You couldn't make it up. Who's to blame, Hassan? That's the question. You're saying it's the Muslim world.
Here in the UK, what is it that we can do? Like, see, never mind the Muslims in the UK. Think about everybody else for a second. Now, why would they want to help Palestine when their own brothers and sisters don't even help them? That's the biggest point. Like, look, over there, it's not like the short Muslim countries. Every single neighbouring country there is a Muslim country. But yet, when it comes to their own people, at this stage, there's next to nothing left of them.
Well, I think that's as powerful a way of putting it as anyone could.
Yeah. So why would anybody else want to help them?
Well, of course, the irony is that the others do want to help them. There are more demonstrations. There's more boycott campaigns. There's more noise from the public of the Western non-Muslim countries than there is from the Arab and Muslim countries.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, utterly despicable and shameful.
Yeah.
Hassan, thanks for the call. Shamim's on the line in Vancouver, in Canada. Who's to blame, Shamim?
George, first of all, I salute you for the work for humanity that you're doing internationally.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Your resilient, consistent, and undaunted efforts remind us of one individual in the history by the name of Zainab, Bibi Zainab, the daughter of Ali, the granddaughter of our Prophet Muhammad. She was defenseless. She was single. She raised the voice as you are doing with all media that you have available. She did the same thing 1400 years ago. She talked in the Parliament of Yazid or the Palace of Yazid. She talked in Medina. She talked everywhere, every day, just as you are doing every hour of the day.
Thank you. Thank you. A very flattering comparison. I'm moved by it. Shamim, what are we going to do about it?
I tell you what I feel here. We are to be blamed. No one else, George. Neither the U.S. or the British or the Israelis or anyone around. Our apathy are the main reason where we are today. Palestinian issue is not a Muslim issue. It's not an Arab issue. It's an issue of humanity. Just as almost 50 years ago, we had the Holocaust that killed millions of Jewish people, Jewish innocent people, which is deplorable in the eyes of all sane and reasonable people. We feel the Palestinians are going through the same Holocaust every night. 6 million Palestinians, innocent, defenseless Palestinians. And who's to be blamed is your question? None other than we ourselves. I myself, and everyone that I see around myself and everyone that I know around the world. We are in billions and we do nothing. And that is what's shameful.
Well, I agree with the point that you make, that of course Palestine is not a Muslim issue, it's not an Arab issue alone, but it is a Muslim issue, and it is an Arab issue. It's an issue, or ought to be, in Vancouver and in London and around the world. But I agree with the last caller from Glasgow, that how can we expect Western governments to stand against Israel when Arab and Muslim governments are not only not standing against them, but most of them are openly collaborating with them. Most of them have got Israeli embassies, either publicly or secretly, operating in their countries. The Mossad is in all of these Arab countries, with one exception. That being Syria, where all the jihadists have gone to destroy. The one Arab country where there is no Israeli presence, where there is no recognition, no normalization, where there is formally a state of war, and where the government in Damascus was the only Arab government to allow the Palestinian resistance, Hamas, to headquarter themselves there. The only Arab government openly working to supply and support the Lebanese resistance, which is the only Arab force ever to successfully confront Israel on the battlefield. And yet that is the Arab country that is invaded by 100,000 so-called fanatic Muslims to destroy it. So I agree with you, Shamim. We are all to blame, but the Muslims are to blame most of all. Because if Muslims will not stand up for Al-Aqsa, from the roof of which the Prophet himself ascended to the heaven and returned with part of the revelation, who else is going to be expected to do so? Let's go to the comment wall and take an email. Shamim, thanks for a great call from Vancouver, brother. Let's go to the comment wall, take our first email of the evening. Russo in London. For me, a news website I saw recently summed up the Israel-Palestine conflict. Two images next to each other. One showed giant orange explosions in Gaza with red fire and thick grey smoke. Beneath it, a caption read, Israeli airstrikes rock Gaza as more are feared dead. Well, the reality is the image next to it was of a calm Israeli settlement with 3 Israeli men just standing there, hands in their pockets, looking around. The caption read, meanwhile, Israelis look to the sky for rockets. Look, this is one of the oldest, longest-running hoaxes in history. We are asked to believe that the victims of terrorism are the terrorists, and that the terrorists are the victims of terrorism. First of all, almost all of the people in the Gaza Strip are refugees. And they're refugees from the very towns, villages, even cities in the south of Palestine, whose towns and villages have been destroyed, and where settlements have been built upon their ruins. And they're being murdered now from weapons fired from land which belongs to the victims of those shells coming from the air, coming from the sea, coming from heavy artillery and tanks on the land border. Let's go to Rome. Talk to Rodrigo. Rodrigo in Rome. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you, George. Hi, how are you?
By the grace of God, I'm good. I'm fighting fit. Go ahead, sir.
Well, George, I'm Italian university student of 22 years old. I'm studying historical sciences and international cooperation. And I just want to say thank you. Thanks to you, your collaborators and colleagues, and in general, thanks to Press TV for the job you're doing day after day.
Press TV is doing a magnificent job.
A serious and knowledgeable person who says things that anyone fears to say or fakes to not know. Your points of view about the recent international happenings are brilliant, and I think that it's very necessary to diffuse these points of view, especially in my country and between guys of my generation. I say to you a little example. Just last night, I had a very hard confrontation with my ex-classmate, and she's a Zionist. It's evident how the brainwash delete all kind of critical judgment. She said to me that I defend people who launch rocks against Israeli tanks. I don't think that any comment is incredible. And this is the people who want peace? I don't think so.
The whole thing is based on a lie, Rodrigo. What we have to do, I tried to do it in my now famous Sky News interview in 2006, which you can find on YouTube, is to say to these people, the clock didn't start ticking 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. The clock started ticking 60 years ago. And you have to understand that. The Palestinian people have lost their country. Their country has been stolen from them by European settlers with the backing of the big powers. Their land has been taken. Their houses have been taken. They are living as refugees. They don't accept it. They will never accept it. So, by existing, they are resisting. So they have to be extinguished, extirpated. They have to be deleted. They have to be erased. If Israel could, it would literally erase all of them, because their very existence is a standing reproach to the foundation of this settler state in the first place. Nobody whose land and home has been taken will sit quietly whilst others frolic in their gardens, enjoy their fruits, their orchards, their lands. It's not possible. If someone stole your home in Rome, Rodrigo, or my home in London, I would never accept it. And my sons would never accept it. And their sons would never accept it. And this is the essence of the problem. The Palestinians demand and require and must have by all moral and legal rights the right to return to their own land, their own home, their own country. Palestine has been wiped off the map. Its people scattered to the four corners of the earth. And they demand the right to return, as we would, Rodrigo, you and me and any other person. And it must be obvious by now. The Palestinians are not going to go away. However many are killed, more will be born. Yeah, 90 people have been killed in Gaza in the last few days. More than 90 will have been born to Palestinian families around the world. They'll never, ever forget, and they will return. I have to take a short break for the news bulletin, just for 3 minutes. God willing, I'll still be here when you get back. Don't go away. There's much more where this came from. Welcome back to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Tonight we're talking about ISIL and their atrocities in Iraq after the discovery of, I think, 35 more executed Iraqis lined up and systematically killed in cold blood, bringing to, according to the figures they themselves released, more than 1,000 massacred, murdered, cold-blooded murder by means too despicable to describe openly on television at this hour, at least in this country, to the audience watching here. People who are helpless, whose hands are tied behind their back, who are entirely at the mercy of these oh so very pious Muslim fanatics, takfiris, fanatics, whose interpretation of Islam is so narrow that the vast majority of their own sect in Islam utterly rejects it. But if you vary by 1 millimeter from the orthodoxies laid down by the self-appointed Caliph Baghdadi, then you're for it. And you're for it in the most grisly, ghastly, murderous way. So we're asking, what has your country been doing about it? What's been the reaction in your country to these atrocities? You may have noticed that they have all but disappeared from the Western media. No one is talking about them at all, let alone doing anything about them. And the other topic that we are dealing with is the hardy perennial, the massacre of Palestinians locked up in Gaza with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. We're asking, who is to blame for this unchecked rampage on which Netanyahu's settler state is involved? Isa is on the line from Texas. Let's take that call. Isa, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway. How are you doing?
I'm good, by the grace of God. Go ahead, sir.
First of all, I would like to say that as a Palestinian who grew up in Jerusalem, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've been doing for Palestine.
La shukra ala wajib, habibi. La shukra ala wajib.
Like every time I go on YouTube to watch videos of you, you never fail to bring the tears to my eyes. So I have a question, but first I wanted to say that I blame mostly the Zionist Saudis and the Zionist Gulf people for what's happening in Palestine, because they have so much power that they don't even use. They use it against the Palestinians when they should be, when they should be protecting them. And I also have another question. It's about Orientalism. Do you think that the lack of empathy that Palestinian people have, like, experienced from most people in the world, and not only Palestinian victims, also Syrian, Iraqi, all kinds of victims in the Middle East, do you think that that's only because of biased media, or is it biased media combined with Orientalism?
Yeah, it is. It's biased media combined with Orientalism, which is another way of saying racism. If you have conquered and occupied and ruled other people, it goes without saying that you have to consider yourself superior to the people whose country you're occupying and whose people you are ruling. Otherwise, what basis do you have for occupying them, for ruling them? You must think of yourselves as superior to them. Then there's the added problem of Islamophobia. As it happens, a considerable number of Palestinians are Christians, but nobody in the West cares about that, even the religious hierarchy of the churches that the Palestinian Christians belong to. You will find virtually no words, never mind actions, by Christian leaders in the West in defense of Palestinian Christians, for example. And the Zionist lobby in the United States is overwhelmingly a fanatical Christian lobby. It's not Jewish at all. Far more Christians are in it than Jews are in it. And many Jews are actually against the actions of Israel. But the fanatic Christians in the United States are right behind it. But I want to come back to the first point that you made. I don't want to upset you more, because sometimes I have tears in my eyes too. A rich family in a Persian Gulf country has spent £1 billion sterling. That's $1.6 billion on a football team in England. Another rich family in a different Persian Gulf country has spent €1 billion on a Paris football team. If the Palestinian people in Gaza had shelters under the ground, then a lot of these people who have now been murdered would still be alive. They'd still be being bombed, they'd still be occupied, still be besieged, still hungry, but they'd still be alive. What was to stop these Persian Gulf countries entering through Egypt, which they own and have bought, digging air raid shelters for the Palestinian refugees, nearly 2 million of them in Gaza? Nothing to stop them, except if they'd done that, they would have upset their Israeli friends and their American friends. And as you know, I hope, in fact, the religion tells us, all actually of the monotheistic religions tell us that charity increases your wealth. The barakat that would have come to these rich families by doing that would have multiplied their already phenomenal wealth. Isa in Texas, thanks for the call. I'm going back to England to talk to Clodagh in Peterborough on the issue of who is to blame for Israel's unchecked violence. Clodagh, welcome.
Oh, George, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, great to hear your voice.
Thank you.
George, in simplicity, I just feel heartbroken, if I can put it that way.
Yes.
I'll give you a context. I'm a Catholic girl. I'm actually a school teacher. And I guess in past years I've definitely typified, that mass ignorance that most Western countries kind of are compiled of. And what happened? What happened was one of the teachers in my school. I became very good friends with her. She was Tunisian. Not that I knew anything about Tunisia, but I remember it was one morning I was collecting her for work, and she got into the car and she just broke down in tears. And after about 10 minutes of trying to console her, she basically just said, well, people in Gaza are under attack. Now, I hadn't a clue about any of that stuff. She then told me she was a Muslim. And, of course, again, pure innocence, honestly, the first thing that came into my mind was, oh, my God, it's a Muslim. So definitely, all the stupid things that are attached to that in society today in terms of the negative things. But as I said, we became really, really close friends. And, of course, then I found it was the same time when the last massive bombing. So from that moment on, I suppose I just kind of lost my heart.
Well, I can tell that you're upset yourself, Clodagh, and I understand why.
But my question, George,
go on.
Is this. I guess I'm just trying to explain what the situation was, or maybe kind of how a Catholic girl ends up kind of being so engrossed in all this stuff. But my question, is there any hope at all? I mean, if you look at everything that's happened, you know, from the condemnation of the illegal settlements, all the aid agencies publishing everything that was going on. Your demonstrations are around the world. The fact that so much of what they did, you know, has publicly been called war crimes. You know, young people like Rachel Corrie, you know, went over to Gaza and got crushed. And I mean, forget about America.
Yeah, well, look, Clodagh, I need to press on.
Question,
I need to press on, sister, because I've got an awful lot of people waiting
I know,
on the line.
But my question is...
Well, you'll have to come to it right now.
Is there any hope?
Okay, let me deal with that. That's what I was about to deal with. There is no hope that this is going to end tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. So I'd be a liar if I said to you that in the next few months, the next year or 2 years even, that there's hope for justice for the Palestinian people. But there is absolute certainty of eventual victory for the Palestinian people and eventual justice for them. Not just because God is greater than them, but because the whole political paradigm in which this is taking place is under change. The fact that you're on the line, close to tears, from Peterborough, an Irish Catholic, working as a teacher in England, are so occupied by this that you phoned and phoned so powerfully, is indicative of the fact that all over the Western world, even in the United States, there is a massive swing away from support for Israel, which was once, in my own lifetime, as a political activist, absolutely hegemonic. When I began supporting the Palestinian cause, you could have fitted all the supporters of the PLO in Britain into this studio. Now we are millions upon millions, not just in this country, but around the world. Secondly, the dictatorships of the Arab world who have betrayed the Palestinian people are coming to the end of their miserable, pathetic, sinful, atrocious lives. These dictatorships, in a few years' time, when my children and yours, when you have them, will be grown up, these dictatorships will be a bad memory. They will be gone because the basis for their existence is collapsing underneath their feet. So all the existential factors are with us. But the one essential factor that proves to me that the Palestinians will not just survive but triumph is the absolute unbreakability, impregnability of the Palestinian national character. They have sacrificed so much, they're not going to give up. They're not going to go away. They're not going to say to their occupiers, okay, we surrender. You can keep our land. You can keep our houses. Let us be your slaves. They will never, ever, ever do that. And Israel knows it. Clodagh, thanks for the call. Let's go back to the comment wall. Take another email. I'm very happy about the comment wall being back. Now you're testing me. Mirsash in Finland. Hello, George. Can you tell me if Saudi Arabia and Turkey are supporting ISIL? Then who supports Saudi Arabia and Turkey? Well, many people in Saudi Arabia, of course, are supporting ISIL. And in the beginning, when they were merely in Syria, Turkey was definitely supporting them. Turkey might still be supporting them. But Saudi Arabia as a state is no longer supporting them. Other states in the Persian Gulf may well be. As to who supports Saudi Arabia and Turkey, I'm assuming that in Finland you're smart enough to know the answer to that. Carol's on the line in London. Carol, welcome.
Oh, hi. Hi, George. Hi.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Hi. Listen, I've got a couple of questions. I've noticed, because I don't watch BBC or mainstream media.
Good for you.
I know there's a lot of lies. But I've noticed on the internet that there was a friend of mine put a post on which was about some children being killed in Gaza. And there was somebody that came up and basically blamed the Palestinians for using their children as shields and saying it was Hamas's sort of fault. And I'm thinking, well, there wasn't enough for, there's a very small land. There's nowhere for these kids to go to.
Exactly.
And it's like, the other thing I was wondering...
But Carol, just say to these people this. Before Hamas even existed, before it had even been founded, these massacres were a regular feature of this conflict. When Arafat was the president, they destroyed the building around him, and then they murdered him, and he was not Hamas. These children are not Hamas. They're only babies, only toddlers. Go on.
It's just so. The other thing I've got a question is that because I'm finding there's an awful lot of almost propaganda being put onto the alternative media. Is Israel funding these people to literally lie and try to change people's mindset?
Oh, there's a whole industry. The Hasbara is public diplomacy. That's the polite word for it. And they don't rely on paid diplomats. They have a very powerful and very skillful lobby, which they employ around the world. They don't have to pay them because these Zionists do it out of love of Zionism. And they descend on people. If you were to tweet me tonight and they thought that they could intimidate you or to convert you, they would devote hours to doing it. And they have all these sock puppets where one person has 50 or 100 different identities. They're very, very hard at work. And while they're hard at work, I'm afraid the people on whom the Palestinians ought to be most able to rely are sound asleep. Thanks for the call. 75% have been new callers tonight. Why don't you make yourselves one of them? Mohammed's on the line in Libya. Mohammed, welcome. Mohammed, you on the line? I think we've lost Mohammed, unfortunately. At least metaphorically, I hope. Mohammed, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still there. I just want to get straight to the point, Mr. Galloway.
Go on.
Yeah, what is happening today in Gaza is very linguistic. And, especially this Shah Ramadan and Muslims are dying, and it is strong tears to all Muslims around the world, especially Saudi Arabia in general. The problem is like God created Deen al-Islam, and Saudi Arabia is the foundation of Deen al-Islam. And why Deen al-Islam cannot, expand for everybody to appreciate and like it? Deen al-Islam is the Islam which people have to understand and appreciate it up. And I don't know why Saudi Arabia are closing their borders instead of leaving people to enter into them to appreciate how life is going on, not thinking about the Shia and other religions.
Well, Saudi Arabia has closed its border to Iraq because it's terrified that this ISIL is going there next. As well they might be. As well they might be. Mohammed, I've got to press on. I want to talk to Syed in Iran. Syed, welcome. Syed, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, George.
Good evening. Go ahead quickly. We're running out of time, brother.
Yeah, George, I want to tell you that Israelis have chosen this time to attack Palestine so that ICL can consolidate its power on Iraq. According to the plan, it was planned even before attacking Iraq that Iraq should be divided into three parts, so there should be no a strong Arab country with Shiism to the danger for Israel. Because
I need to stop you there just because it's a bad line and because I need to get on before we finished. Just let me remind you of what I said here 100, if not 1,000 times. The West doesn't give a damn about whether somebody is Shiite or Sunni. They don't even know the difference. But they know there are people who are ready to fight each other, even kill each other, even kill their neighbors. because of that difference. The West doesn't care whether a country has a Shiite majority, a Shiite minority, an Ismaili majority. They don't care a damn about that. All they want is people... No, let me finish because I need to move on. All they want is people to fight each other. They want to partition Iraq. They want to partition all the Arab countries, including other countries that are not Arab, like Iran. If they could partition Iran and turn it into an Arab emirate, a Persian emirate, a Baluch emirate, a Kurdish emirate, they would do so, because they want hundreds, if not thousands, of emirates that they can turn against each other, sell weapons to all of them, and whilst they're divided, steal their things. Last call is in England. Tom, in Kendal. Tom, go ahead.
Hi, George. Just to say, right, where the blame lies for the violence at the moment, I think, is mainly in the mainstream media. The media seems to be selling this as a war between equal powers, which it certainly isn't. The Hamas have very ineffective pipe bombs, which aren't killing anybody at all. 76 Palestinians have been murdered, been eviscerated and cut to pieces and burnt. No Israelis have been killed at all. Also, there's no coverage at all of the ongoing occupation and repression of the Palestinian people, such as the torment of the children in Hebron. And at the moment, there's a censorship by omission. Serendot has now got a cinema set up where the Israelis are sitting on the hill and applauding the bombs raining down on Gaza. And I think it's absolutely appalling. And it's all being overseen by BICOM and so forth. I know we're only short of time.
Brilliantly put, Tom. I couldn't put it better myself, so I won't try to. You're right to take us back to the beginning of the proximate cause of this particular outbreak of massive violence. 3 Israeli illegal settler teenagers were cruelly murdered by somebody. Nobody knows whom. Instantly, Netanyahu said that Hamas would pay the price and began bombing Gaza, a vast distance away, entirely separate territory. Gaza began to get bombed. A Palestinian teenager had petrol poured down his throat and set on fire. That didn't stop Netanyahu. It made him redouble the rage with which he began raining down death and destruction on the Palestinian people. Now, more than 90 Palestinians are dead. More than 20 of those are children. Are you listening, David Cameron? Are you listening, Ed Miliband? Are you listening, Muslim leaders?
Make sure to your television volume turn up to 0. 0, 0. Can you spell your name for me? Yeah, I know. You'll be directly put through the phone number and then we'll call you back. Can I have your telephone number? So I've done the call you back to make sure your television volume is turned down to 0.